Joining us now, Democratic Senator from Vermont, Peter Welch. Senator, thank you very much for joining us. I'm sure you were just listening to a good portion of that conversation I was having. I am very curious to get your thoughts on President Biden, and not only whether he can campaign, but whether he can govern for another 4 years if he's elected.
Well, first of all, we love Joe Biden in Vermont. He got the highest percentage victory here than in any state. We love who he is and what he's done. The debate was a setback. And the Biden campaign has the challenge of addressing that to reassure folks. Our existential challenge is beating Trump. That's more important than anything. And the Biden campaign is in the process of reviewing how to proceed. It was unfortunate they criticized Democrats who were asking the question that the campaign itself is asking. And at the end of the day, there has to be an assessment by the Biden campaign about how much damage is done as a result of that debate and what steps they can take and whether they'll be effective to reassure folks and give us confidence we'll win.
It sounds like you are not entirely convinced that he has convinced people that he can do it. You're leaving the door open.
Well, I am. I mean, it is open. Let's be candid. What we saw can't be unseen. That was an unsteady performance, and it raised questions about his physical condition. And that the campaign itself has acknowledged. And it's important for us. We have an obligation as a party who's committed to serving the future of our democracy. And that is the most important issue for every single one of us, from President Biden to a precinct captain in the south side of Chicago. So this is the process that I think the Biden campaign is going through. Now, I happen to have a lot of confidence that President Biden, when he makes his final decision, will do it on the basis, as he's always done, of what's best for this country. How can he best serve? So big decisions for the president.
He has had a long political career, and the 4 years that he has been in office, 3.5 years, he has gotten some major groundbreaking bipartisan legislation done. The economy is on the way up. He's being praised for his handling of 2 wars that he didn't start, 2 wars that are consequential to our own national security here. The jobs numbers look really good. There's just such a mountain of evidence pointing to this being a positive presidency that Americans should be happy about. Right. But Americans have bad vibes. And so I wonder, do you think that he has the people around him who are giving him candid advice, who are being who feel like they can be truthful and honest with him?
Well, let me say 2 things. First, everything you just described, I subscribe to myself. We're indebted to President Biden for saving us from Trump and for his incredible accomplishments. And by the way, that is with a nutcase Republican House and a razor-thin margin in the Senate. And second, President Biden has an extraordinary personal history of bouncing back from family tragedy and loss and becoming a loving, wonderful person and bouncing back from political setbacks. So for him, he deals with this. But age is the issue now. And that was the concern that folks had going into the debate. And the debate was the opportunity to try to put that to rest. And candidly, it intensified the concerns about age. So as a responsible party, we have an obligation to not delude ourselves and to be determined that our decisions and how we proceed is based on our best prospects to keep Donald Trump away from the White House. And I think that the president and his team know that. I have confidence in them. And I think every Democrat, as I mentioned, has to be looking at this from that perspective.
Do you think that the Democratic Party has another person who could beat Donald Trump?
Well, here's what's interesting. The Democratic Party and all the names you hear as to who might be a presidential candidate should something happen or in the next election, they all want to carry on the Biden record of accomplishment, his economic policy, his foreign policy. So President Biden has been an extraordinary unifying force in our party. You know, he had Bernie Sanders working hand in glove with him. He had Joe Manchin ultimately coming to assist in getting major legislation passed. So all of the potential candidates out there are Biden candidates. The issue for the president is the age issue. That's what's been showing up in the polls. And unfortunately, that was what was intensified by the debate.
The vast majority of the American public are desperate for somebody else. They don't like Donald Trump. They don't want a President Biden either. They've been asking for somebody else for a while now. It's been consistent in pretty much every poll we've done. Why not just take this and say, I did what I came here to do, and hand it off to the next generation when so many Americans are asking for that?
Well, two things. Number one, I think we Democrats have to acknowledge that is what the polls are showing. There was a real resistance to a rematch of Biden and Trump. But President Biden, I think, had a legitimate concern. He was the best person for us in 2020 to keep Trump out of the White House. He did it once, and his view, as he stated, was that he thought he could do it again. Is that the case? We don't know right now after Thursday night.
Senator Peter Welch, thank you very much for coming on from the very great state, a state I love, the state of Vermont. Thank you so much.
Hey there, MSNBC fans. I'm Luke Russert, and be sure to join me, Rachel Maddow, Jen Psaki, Lawrence O'Donnell, Steve Kornacki, Joy Reid, and many more September 7th in Brooklyn, MSNBC Live Democracy 2024. Click on the link for ticket information. We will see you there.